Good morning. I hope that you're doing well. The focus of this week's class is on couples work with folks who identify as lesbian, gay, bi, trans, genderqueer, questioning queer, the whole spectrum. I mean, this conglomerate of alphabet. What the hell does it really mean? um, However, I think we are all aware of some of what it means, in that the field of family and couples developed without the needs, not only without the needs of queer identified folks and all the folks who identify under that rubric, not only without taking into consideration their needs, our needs, but actively discriminating against folks who identified as outside of the heterosexual male female binary norm. And of course, the field has changed a lot in the last, I'm thinking, how long have I been in it? Almost 30 years, or maybe 30 years. It's moved considerably. And at the same time, some issues still remain the same, depending largely a lot on where we might live. Um, Living in the Bay Area as someone who's queer identified, or who has those alpha, it comes under the rubric of this alphabet, is very different than if one lives in rural parts of this state or country, um, and in different parts of the world. Of course, that's going to be really affect the experience of folks in relationships that are outside the heterosexual male female cisgender binary norms. So I included quite a few resources this week. Some of them are optional. One of the optional resources is an interview that I did with a wonderful person, therapist, narrative therapist called Elijah Nella, who now lives in a rural part of New York State and works largely with queer identified couples. They themselves identify as transgender. And I think you'll find that a really interesting conversation that they and I had together, really about what does queer mean? Like trying to blast open the category and understand what taking a queer perspective might look like in terms of working with all kinds of relationships. So, what can we learn from that by opening up that category and applying some of the principles of queerness to all folks? Because, take a look, see what you think. But what I prioritized for this week was focusing on both those larger issues and how homophobia, heterosexism might impact um, queer relationships, the folks that you see who come into your office for work, but also how this intersects with the EFT approach. So the videos that you're seeing this week are Susan Johnson, who is working as a consultant therapist with a same-sex female couple, cisgender female couple, and a same-sex cisgender male couple. It will be awesome if you can watch both of those videos all the way through, as well as complete the core readings for this week. However, I know in the real world, you may not be able to have the time to do all of that thoroughly, and I'd rather you went for quality rather than just sheer quantity, because you can always watch one of those videos at a later time, but I'd like you to watch at least one in depth all the way through. And then there are some questions for you to answer in the discussion forum, related to both some of your thoughts about working with LGBTQ self-identified folks from your own positionality, as well as further reflection on the emotion-focused approach as one of the validated evidence-based methods in our field. I also think it's for me, watching this movie as someone who was an early queer identified practitioner in the field of couples therapy. It's really wonderful for me to see Susan Johnson's work and to hear her explicitly reflecting on the impact of heterosexism, homophobia on queer relationships. it speaks to me of the ability for things to change in our field. And even though there's always so much further to go, and what we've achieved is always under contestation and threat, um, we have come a long way. The other piece of this is the sociogram. So, a sociogram can be seen as an alternative tool or a supplementary tool to the genogram. And I find that sociograms are really powerful to work with queer identified couples because they can take into account the level of connectedness and isolation that a couple might feel, or a relationship might, folks in a relationship might feel within the queer community, because queer community um, might take the place of family for many folks who've been ostracized by their families of origin. So it allows us to track outside of the genogram in the genetic sense towards who are the folks who are most important in the lives of folks in this relationship, and what is the perceived sociometric distance and closeness between the members of this couple or this relationship and those in their community. So take a look at those resources as well. And it's something that you might want to bear in mind while you're developing the profile for your couple for the presentation that you're going to be doing. So I think that's it for now. Have a great week. Look forward to responding to this week's Stan Tatkin interpersonal neurobiology work when I review that on Wednesday. Looking forward to jumping into that. I've been sort of savoring some of the comments as they've been coming in, and I'm looking forward to having the time to just really read everything that